Brought to you by WikiVD Documentaries. Anthony Eden.
Robert Anthony Eden, 1st Earl of Avon, was a British Conservative politician who served 3 periods as Foreign Secretary, and then a relatively brief term as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from 1955 to 1957. Achieving rapid promotion as a young Member of Parliament, he was Foreign Secretary at the age of 38, before resigning in protest at Neville Chamberlain's appeasement policy towards Mussolini's Italy. He again held that position for most of the Second World War, and a third time in the early 1950s.
Having been Winston Churchill's deputy for almost 15 years, he succeeded him as Prime Minister in April 1955, and a month later won a general election. Eden's worldwide reputation as an opponent of appeasement, a man of peace, and a skilled diplomat was overshadowed in 1956 when the United States refused to support the Anglo-French military response to the Suez Crisis, which critics across party lines regarded as an historic setback for British foreign policy, signaling the end of British predominance in the Middle East.
Most historians argue that he made a series of blunders, especially not realizing the depth of U.S. opposition to military action. 2 months after ordering an end to the Suez operation, he resigned as Prime Minister on grounds of ill health and because he was widely suspected of having misled the House of Commons over the degree of collusion with France and Israel.
Eden is generally ranked among the least successful British prime ministers of the 20th century, although 2 broadly sympathetic biographies have gone some way to redressing the balance of opinion. Dr. Thorpe says the Suez Crisis was a truly tragic end to his premiership, and one that came to assume a disproportionate importance in any assessment of his career.
Family. Eden was born at Windleston Hall, County Durham, England. His birth coincided almost exactly with the Diamond Jubilee of Queen Victoria. He was born into a very conservative family of landed gentry. He was a younger son of Sir William Eden, 7th and 5th Baronet, a former colonel and local magistrate from an old-titled family. Sir William, an eccentric and often foul-tempered man, was a talented watercolorist and collector of impressionists. Eden's mother, Sybil Frances Grey, was a member of the famous Grey family of Northumberland. She had wanted to marry Francis Knollys, later an important royal advisor. Although she was a popular figure locally, she had a strained relationship with her children, and her profligacy ruined the family fortunes. Eden's older brother Tim had to sell Windleston in 1936. Rab Butler would later quip that Eden, a handsome but ill-tempered man, was half-mad baronet, half-beautiful woman.
Eden's great-grandfather was William I. Munger, who commanded the 2nd Regiment of Foot during the Peninsular War, fighting under Wellington at Vimiero. He was also descended from Governor Sir Robert Eden, 1st Baronet, of Maryland, the Calvert family of Maryland, the Schaffalitsky de Muckadell family of Denmark, and B family of Norway. Eden was once amused to learn that one of his ancestors had, like Churchill's ancestor the Duke of Marlborough, been the lover of Barbara Castlemaine. There was speculation for many years that Eden's biological father was the politician and man of letters George Wyndham, but this is considered impossible as Wyndham was in South Africa at the time of Eden's conception.
His mother was rumoured to have had an affair with Wyndham. Eden had an elder brother called John, who was killed in action in 1914, and a younger brother, Nicholas, who was killed when the battlecruiser HMS Indefatigable blew up and sank at the Battle of Jutland in 1916. School. Eden was educated at two independent schools. The first was Sandroyd School in Cobham from 1907 to 1910, where he swam poorly, but excelled in languages. He then started at Eton College in January 1911. There he won a Divinity Prize and excelled at cricket, rugby, and rowing, winning house colours in the last. Eden learned French and German on continental holidays, and, at one stage, as a child spoke French better than English. Although he was fluent in French and German and able to converse with the Chinese Premier Chu Enlai in French at Geneva in 1954. Out of a sense of professionalism, he normally preferred to have diplomats present to translate at meetings, and more when he met Hitler in February 1934. Although Eden later claimed to have had no interest in politics until the early 1920s, his teenage letters and diaries show him to have been obsessed with the subject. He was a strong partisan conservative, rejoicing in the defeat of Charles Masterman at a by-election, and once astonishing his mother on a train journey by telling her the MP and the size of his majority for each constituency through which they passed.
By 1914 he was a member of the Eton Society.
First World War. During the First World War, Eden's older brother John was killed on 17 October 1914 whilst serving with the 17th Lancers. His uncle Robin was later shot down and captured whilst serving with the RFC. Eden served with the 21st Battalion of the King's Royal Rifle Corps, a unit initially recruited mainly from County Durham country labourers, who were increasingly replaced by Londoners after losses at the Somme.
He was commissioned a temporary second lieutenant on 2 November 1915. His battalion transferred to France on 4 May 1916 as part of 41st Division. In 1916 Eden's younger brother Nicholas was killed at Jutland, and his brother-in-law Lord Brooke wounded. One summer night in 1916, near Ploegstedt, Eden had to lead a small raid into an enemy trench to kill or capture enemy soldiers, so as to identify the enemy units opposite. He and his men were pinned down in no man's land under enemy fire. His sergeant seriously wounded in the leg. Eden sent one man back to British lines to fetch another man and a stretcher, then he and three others carried the wounded sergeant back with, as he later put it in his memoirs, a chilly feeling down our spines, unsure whether the Germans had not seen them in the dark, or were chivalrously declining to fire. He omitted to mention that he had been awarded the Military Cross for the incident, something of which he had made little mention in his political career. On 18 September 1916, after the Battle of Floers-Courcelette, he wrote to his mother, "I have seen things lately that I am not likely to forget." On 3 October, he was appointed an adjutant, with the rank of temporary lieutenant, for the duration of that appointment. At the age of 19, he was the youngest adjutant on the Western Front. Eden's MC was gazetted in the 1917 Birthday Honours List. His battalion fought at Messines Ridge in June 1917. On 1 July 1917, Eden was confirmed as a temporary lieutenant, relinquishing his appointment as adjutant 3 days later. His battalion fought in the first few days of 3rd Ypres. Between 20 and 23 September 1917, his battalion spent a few days on coastal defense on the Franco-Belgian border. On 19 November, he was transferred to the General Staff as a GSO3, with the temporary rank of captain. He served at 2nd Army HQ, missing out on service in Italy, as 41st Division was in Italy, after the disastrous Italian defeat at the Battle of Caporetto.
between mid-November and the 8th of March 1918, returning to the Western Front as a major German offensive was clearly imminent, only for Eden's former battalion to be disbanded to help alleviate the British Army's manpower shortage.
Although Lloyd George was one of the few politicians of whom Eden reported frontline soldiers speaking highly, he wrote to his sister in disgust at his wait-and-see twaddle in declining to extend conscription to Ireland. In March 1918, during the German Spring Offensive, he was stationed near La Fère on the Oise, opposite Adolf Hitler, as he learned at a conference in 1935. At one point, when Brigade HQ was bombed by German aircraft, his companion told him, "There now. You have had your first taste of the next war." On the 26th of May 1918 he was appointed Brigade Major of the 198th Infantry Brigade. At the age of 21, he was the youngest brigade major in the British Army. He considered standing for Parliament at the end of the war, but the general election was called too early for this to be possible.
After the armistice, he spent the winter of 1918-19 in the Ardennes with his brigade, and on the 28th of March 1919 he transferred to be Brigade Major of 99th Infantry Brigade. Eden contemplated applying for a regular commission, but they were very hard to come by, with the army contracting so rapidly.
He initially shrugged off his mother's suggestion of studying at Oxford. He also rejected the thought of becoming a barrister. His preferred career alternatives at this stage were standing for Parliament for Bishop Auckland, the civil service in East Africa, or the Foreign Office. He was demobilized on the 13th of June 1919. He retained the rank of captain. Thank you for watching. Brought to you by WikiVD Documentaries. Please like and subscribe below. Please like and subscribe below.